So I'm really good at finding four-leaf clovers. Whenever I'm on the phone with my buddy Tyler, I'll tell him like, hey, I found another four-leaf clover today. And the other day I told him that, and he's like, are you like always looking for these things? Like, are you standing in a field right now? Are you just wasting time? And I was like, no, I've trained my eyes to find a four-leaf clover the second that I walk past a field that has one in it. I can look down, search really quick, and figure out if there's a four-leaf clover in the first 10 seconds. It is so easy for me to find four-leaf clovers now. It's almost second nature. That when I'm walking down the street, and it's been this way for a long time, I can look down as I'm walking and be like, oh, just found one. And it's so interesting, the parallel of this to business. I'm going to connect it in just a second. But most people think, like live their whole lives thinking that there's a 1 in a million chance that they'll find a four-leaf clover because it's just common knowledge, right? Oh, it's so difficult to find four-leaf clovers. When in reality, they'll pass by a million four-leaf clovers and only look down to find one once, and maybe not ever, you know? And so their 1 in a million chance is because they pass by a million opportunities to discover a four-leaf clover, and they don't take that opportunity. And so then realistically, it's not about becoming better in any way. It's just about taking more opportunities that come your way. And so then the same thing applies to business and life in general. How many opportunities exist out there? Are other people succeeding at the thing that you want to succeed at? Yes. Then it's possible. You can make all the excuses in the world that it's super difficult, that only X, Y, and Z can make it happen, that someone who has money or someone who this, that, and the other, only under these circumstances would I be able to pull this off. But then you're just limiting yourself or giving yourself an excuse to not take action. And that's the best thing to do, is to say like, oh, if I put my full time towards it, I could make it work. Of course I could. But I don't have the time. I have to run my business, you know? Or whatever else, whatever other excuse you can come up with that will allow you to delay taking action to move towards this thing just enough to give you the excuse that because you haven't put in the effort, of course you're not achieving results, right? Instead, train your eyes to look for opportunity in all categories of life, and then you will be drowning in opportunity. It's not about saving money when you start a company. The company has to make money to exist. The greatest companies out there are increasing profits. They're not decreasing cost, right? And so from that frame of mind, instead of training yourself to avoid discomfort, which is the default human condition, is to avoid discomfort, you should instead seek out opportunity, seek out good feeling, whatever that is, right? Look for the good in life instead of always avoiding the bad, because you can only avoid so much bad, but you can seek an unlimited upside of good. You know, there's a million four-leaf clovers. I can find 10 in 10 minutes. My sister and my sister's fiance are the same exact way. Same thing with my mom. Because all of us know that when you look for four-leaf clover, they have a distinct square pattern that if you look down, you can look for that and just search all these different things. You can sift through all the three-leaf clovers and find the one that has that pattern. And then you know, oh, I just found a four-leaf clover. Because we've trained our eyes to look for that. So what category of life do you want to succeed in? What opportunities would allow you to succeed there? A 1 million view video would help me to succeed in social media. In order to succeed in selling real estate, I'd have to get in front of, one person who's looking for a home, right? Any category of life. To sell my first pressure wash, I'd have to knock enough doors to figure out one person that has a dirty house that wants their house pressure washed. In any opportunity or any category, there is an opportunity that would allow you to succeed. Figuring out the circumstances that would allow you to seek out that opportunity is what matters most for your business, Because in any of those circumstances, I could try all these different things to figure out, how do I convert a higher percentage of people? How do I avoid people saying no? How do I overcome objections? All these things are good if you have the core business down, which is how do I get the first person? How do I look for the first opportunity? How do I get the first source? It's these things that matter. Is instead of being overwhelmed with the all the four-leaf clovers in the field, training my eyes to look for the one thing that matters, and then being very strict that I'm only going to look for this one thing that is perfect because it exists out there. And if I look long enough, I'll be able to find it. And then when I find it once, I'll recognize other opportunities around it. The cool part about four-leaf clovers is that they grow in a field. They grow from the same roots. And so then when you find one, you're much more likely to find another in its direct environment, right around it. The 1 foot radius around that one four-leaf clover is like twice as likely, let's say. I don't even know the percentage. But when I look for one and I find it, I immediately look around it and find another one. It's almost like a 50-50 shot that I'll find two four-leaf clovers within 10 seconds of each other. So the other crazy part is that when you train your eyes to look for four-leaf clovers, you find irregularities, things that are not what most people are looking for. Most people just want to get by. And if your goal is to just get by, you'll only look for things that help you get by. I just need one more customer for this week. If I could just get one more, oh my goodness, and I need to do that every single week to continue my business for the next 10 years. That's not a way to live. You want to hit it out of the ballpark as often as possible. And when you look for those opportunities, one day you hit it out of the ballpark, and that gives you enough time to figure out how to do that again. And now instead of working 5 days a week, you can work 1 day a week. And as long as you're hitting it out of the ballpark every single time. So creating that system for doing this by training your mind to understand what circumstances or what characteristics make a good opportunity. So I've trained my eyes to look for four-leaf clovers to where I can find them really quick. That allows me to find the irregularities, right? So now I see two three-leaf clovers that are next to each other, and I see 6 leaves together, and I'm, that's irregular to me. I'm like, Every now and again, I'll try to split those open, and I'll see that there's one stem. So what I mean by that, instead of finding a 4-leaf clover, I'll find a 6 or a 7-leaf clover. Most people would just think, it's 2 3-leaf clovers. I've trained my mind to look for those irregular things. The overlapping 4-leaf clovers look a little bit different than a 6-leaf clover. And so then, because I'm training my eye to search out these opportunities, and I'm getting very good at it to the point that I can find irregularities, I can also look for things that other people would have just glazed over and find the super opportunities. You see what I mean? I found a 7-leaf clover yesterday, which was crazy. This is a bit of a God story too, because I don't know if I should lean on superstition or if this is God or whatever it is, right? But whenever I ask a question, it's almost like a cool way of communicating with God of whenever I find a 4-leaf clover, I think in my mind, everything's going to be all right. And I should always have that thought going through my head. I shouldn't wait till I find a 4-leaf clover to have that peace. Because if I trust in God and I believe that my life is in his hands and that I'm on his path for me, then there should never be a moment that goes by where I'm stressed, where I'm anxious. I should always be thinking everything's going to be all right. I'm in God's hands. Regardless, or in addition, not regardless. In addition, on top of that, hitherto, I finished the table yesterday that I was working on for such a long time. And there was this annoying time for about 30 or 40 minutes after I had mixed together the ingredients that were going to be the spray that would go on top of the table, the polyurethane finish. This is the final touch. Once I spray this, the table is done. And if I do it right, it'll be the greatest table I've ever made. And so I mix it together and I'm trying to spray it on the table and the sprayer's not working. Now there's a time clock on when you mix together these ingredients. You're supposed to spray it and let it dry within 40 minutes of pouring the ingredients together. It's a 90-minute pot life, but you want to give yourself enough time to do 2 coats, right? So because it's not spraying, I have to figure out how to solve this problem. I got to take apart the sprayer as the material is drying inside of it. The time's ticking, trying to replace all these different things. And it's so annoying because I didn't clean my equipment properly. And I learned that from this happening on the spot with this really expensive material that I'm about to spray on the table. So I'm like taking it apart, trying to clean it out and all these different things. Finally put it back together, and 40 minutes go by, right? So it had been like 30 or 40 minutes. Gnats were biting my leg, or mosquitoes. And I was sweaty. It was so humid outside because it's summertime. It was 8 o'clock at night, so I was hungry and I just wanted to go eat dinner. Everything was going wrong all at the same time. And I was like, you know what? Everything's going to be all right. Lord, I give it up to you. And then slowly I recollect my thoughts, try out something different, start spraying. It actually works. Tighten it all up, spray the top of the table. We're good to go. And then I set down the equipment, take a breather for a second, look at the work. It's beautiful. Best table I've ever built. And while it's drying, I walk over to the grass. Right next to the table, there's a 7-leaf clover. So that's when I found this 7-leaf clover. And it's kind of cool that I've trained my eyes to look for those opportunities. And then as well, it's a reminder that God is good. And seeing a stoplight could be a reminder that God is good, because all the time God is good, and God is good all the time. And so I don't know, I think that that's a cool thing as well, that I've trained my eyes to look for those opportunities. And so there's the metaphor there relating to business, that looking for the best opportunities to not just persist, but to succeed at massive levels. So not just to carry on for one more day, but to make this an everlasting business, going up to bat and hoping every single time, or planning on a grand slam, instead of just going up and hoping to get to first base. So there's one side of the 4-leaf clover analogy or metaphor, is that related to business and life in general. The other side of things, the part where I talked about when I see a 4-leaf clover, it's a gentle reminder that everything's going to be all right. It doesn't have to be when I find a 4-leaf clover that everything's going to be all right. And I realized that yesterday, because even though that happened right after I built the most beautiful table I built, and there was all these problems, and I still think it's a God thing. I can't get superstitious and allow myself to think that whenever I find a 4-leaf clover, that's God saying yes. Maybe it is, but getting in tune without a physical object, just allowing myself to learn how to communicate on a different level, where I hear it up here. He speaks to me up here instead of seeing a 4-leaf clover, because that might be a superstitious thing. And I don't want to rely on superstition. I want to rely on intuition from God. So anyways, that's a little bit of, what's going on in my life right now, some general ideas. And then as well, a way of life that I live by, trusting in God. And so then to tie all this back together, the craziest part about this entrepreneurial journey is that I'm learning that there's lessons to be learned everywhere. There's wisdom in every experience. And then on top of that everything is an opportunity to grow my relationship with God even more. Because ultimately, I will succeed. I will start a family, if that's his plan. I will, do all these different things. That's not going to be a problem for me. The problem is, will I develop a strong relationship with God? Will I become closer with him? Or will I get lost in, the ways of this world? The ultimate gift is the relationship with the creator of everything. And so then if my goal is to live out my best life, then of course that's got to be the forefront of my mind every single day. So it was cool, that experience yesterday of not only finding a 7-leaf clover, but also realizing, even though I found this 7-leaf clover after this really difficult time building the most important table that I've ever built, this doesn't necessarily have to be from God. It could just be a 7-leaf clover that I found. And then as well, God is just good. So it's not that whenever I find a 4-leaf clover, whenever I find a 7-leaf clover, God is good then. He's always good. He's always there. I just find these things, and that's a reminder to me in that moment. God is good. Yeah, so hopefully you can take a little bit of that worldview and apply it to your life, or use the metaphor. And start looking for opportunities, because realistically, there's enough opportunity out there for massive businesses to succeed nationwide. So if you only sought out the perfect opportunities and only put your resources towards those opportunities, you would beat these national companies, because at least in a way you're getting higher profit and better clients. Instead of casting a wide net and just getting everyone who goes with that, seeking out those luxury clients and delivering a tailored experience to them, those massive opportunities, whatever that looks like in whatever category you're trying to pursue, that's what's going to suit you best in the long run, because they'll pay you the most dividends long term working with them, because they're the perfect opportunity. Or pursuing these types of deals will give you the most dividends long term, because it's the easiest thing to deal with, the least amount of friction with the most potential gain. Figure out that one first, succeed on that level, and of course every opportunity or every niche or every level has its advantage and disadvantage. But just some food for thought to think about. Yeah, why not us?